Let's go into this last segment, which is what's going on with the COVID shot for pregnant women. You probably heard that the CDC still recommends COVID vaccines for pregnant women, and that's true. But the catch that we really have here is Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. removed the vaccine from official immunization schedules, and the CDC didn't formally put it back on the list for pregnancies. So the reason that this matters is that this formal schedule is really the guide for insurance coverage, provider practices, and public programs. And without it, access is actually harder, and some insurers just won't cover the cost. So even though the CDC's website says the shot is recommended, and not including it on the official list is creating confusion and could it make it tougher for pregnant people to get vaccinated. So I'd love to kind of talk a little bit through this one and probably a little bit about the last question I asked on reactions and how we react to this, but also on who's impacted the most by this.
Well, I think, the politicization of everything in our culture is problematic. And I think science research in health is particularly problematic. I do think people should ask questions, people should have opinions. But to really have public health, we need some referee, someone we agree on. And right now, we've got part of the country believes in like scholars and doctors, another part believes in like online influencers. Some throw out the entire thing. We don't have kind of a joint public opinion on these things, and the weaponization of vaccines, which we can go into this later, but I think has been a problem across the ideological spectrum. The weaponization of vaccines, that is not good for public health. I think we need to have honest conversations about them. I'm open to highlighting any problems with them, but that's got to be done scientifically. It can't be done by a YouTuber.
Mm.
Yeah, we've really moved health from a public health from a collective issue to more like hyper individualist, kind of libertarian approach where it's you don't think about how do we fit into the we're all in this together, how do we fit into the big picture, and how do we organize and take care of ourselves, so that we are sort of thinking about the well-being of everyone. And I, Nolan was touching on, and even this article about how it not having a clear kind of guide. It just you can't trust anything, so you kind of forced to make these personal decisions. So I don't know if it's an unintended consequence of the system, or if it's part of the sort of the shift from collective health to individual. But it really is just making it very hard to sort of believe in this collective project.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that people are now kind of voting on this stuff, I think, is what contributes to a big part of the problem. Is it's become so politicized. And when I said across the ideological spectrum, what I was talking about is you have like RFK and other vaccine deniers and skeptics on the right, and they feel totally ignored by the left, even though they did, there were some legitimate concerns. I mean, I have Anthony Fauci on record in 2021 saying if you get the vaccine, you won't have any symptoms. And I got the vaccine and I had symptoms. So there were issues like that. He flip-flopped on some of his mask policy and the amount of vaccines. So I think they're right about a lot of that. But the left also has to take some ownership over this. I mean, I grew up a lefty in the Bay Area, and like, the left was really one of the biggest vaccine skeptics. And at the same time, they're mocking the right for questioning COVID vaccines. They're all reading Empire of Pain and talking about the Sackler family and Big Pharma are corrupt. So I think there's plenty of contributors to the skepticism, some good faith, some bad faith. And unfortunately, I think this is going to be the new normal, that, if and when the Trump administration leaves office and say Democrats come in, they'll probably turn a lot of this stuff over. And then when they leave office, it'll be turned back over, as long as this is a politicized issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that is really the issue. And Dickey, you brought it up of this idea of like public or like community health and community, like the well-being of a community. I think we are seeing this take place in Texas right now, where people were very much like, oh, I like withhold my right to not get a vaccine. And of course you do. But then when you see your own community, your own people, your daughters, your sons, people, your children getting sick and getting measles, then it becomes an issue. And people are like, oh, now I need to start getting the vaccine. Well, that's kind of what we were trying to prevent in the first place. And so I think that becomes, I think people only really notice or care about things when it is in front of their faces. And unfortunately, I think that's something to think about when it comes to the vaccines and just continuing down this line of misinformation, or thinking about what it is that we really center for where we get our information from these kind of health choices.
Yeah, and I think that adding the for-profit model always creates a conflict of interest. I think that creates skepticism. I know that in our field, Sydney, we're educators. I think the more and more higher education becomes for-profit, the more people will not trust it. They'll be skeptical of, are you doing this for-profit or because you care about education? I think you extend that into police work, healthcare work, government work. As long as that for-profit model continues to grow in influence, I think you're going to see more and more skepticism and rejection in a lot of these systems, to the detriment of the collective good in a lot of cases. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Disinfo Detox. I want to thank the Media Literacy Wrecking Crew for being with me. Thank you, Sydney. Thank you, Dickey.
Bye, Detoxers.
See you next time, Detoxers.
Hey, Detoxers. Thanks for tuning in. You can find Disinfo Detox on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share. Every click helps grow the community and keeps those tech overlords happy. Detox complete.